Alright, so this is the viola part to the Legend of Dark Mountain for the Symphony UIL piece. The viola part isn't terribly challenging in terms of notes and intonation. However, there are a couple tricky transitions and some rhythm counting that might throw you for a loop the first couple times until you get the hang of it. But fortunately, it's very repetitive, so once you figured out how to do it one time, you can just apply it to the whole rest of the piece. Okay? The first tricky transition spot I want to draw your attention to is in measure 12 and 13. If you'll notice on your part, measure 12 is arco with the bow, but measure 13 is pizzicato, and there's no rest in between the two. So what you're going to need to do after playing your notes in 12, you're going to keep your bow hold, stick your index finger out, and reach around for the pluck. You're going to have to lift your wrist higher to do this. If your bow wrist is low, your finger will not reach. Like, it's not humanly possible. You're going to have to lift your wrist so you can come up and around so you can get that, okay? So you'll go straight from bowing to plucking. Okay, going back and forth between the two, okay? So that's how you'll deal with that transition. Now, your other spot that you'll need to make sure that you coordinate well is all the spots that you have lift sets that don't have rests accompanied with them. The first one would be between 6 and 7. You have a half note with the lift set at the end going on to 7. Now, what I will recommend you do is don't chop the half note so that it sounds like a quarter note. Have it just a little bit longer, but not so long that you are late to 7, okay? Still do your subdivision counting so that you're right on time, okay? And that takes some coordination, getting that not too short but not too long, okay? All right, the last thing I want to draw your attention to is your rhythm counting. Find for me measure 3, measure 5, it's the same idea. You have the 1 half note 4, or the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, which is exactly how you would count it with your subdivisions. It's always going to feel awkward because we're so used to having the half note either at the beginning of a measure or at the end of the measure. When you put it in the middle, it always has that kind of disjunct, that weird feeling to it, that it's not quite symmetrical. Okay, so you're going to have to count it. You cannot play this one by ear. 1 half note 4, or 1, 2, and 3. 4 and. Find some way that makes sense to you to count it, and count it that way every time. Don't ever play it by ear. Now you'll have the same sort of idea when you have your eighth notes, like in measure 8, where you have 1, 2, and 3, and 4, or we talked about in one of our previous songs, high, pepperoni, high. It's that same sort of feel, though. 1 half note 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. They're exactly related, except one is a half note, and one is the 4 eighth notes that would fit inside of your half note, okay? So once you've counted the one, the other one will start to make sense as well. All right, so let's break this chunk into, or this piece into 4 chunks, and then, or actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chunks, okay? And then I'll go back and I'll loop and play the whole piece with you, okay? All right, our first chunk is going to be from measures 1 to 13, where we have that lift set at the end of measure 6, making sure that you're nice and quick about that, and we have all those spots to very carefully count our subdivisions. Okay, here we go. Starting with an accent, forte, so you're a little closer to the bridge, wrist high, and for an accent, remember you're going to lean on that index finger of your bow hold to really dig into the string, almost like a ping-pong feeling at the beginning of the note, at the start of the note. Okay? Here we go, from the beginning. 1, 2, ready, go. Rest, rest. Half a note in. 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 Rest, rest. Okay, so that's your first chunk. The next chunk starts with your pizzicato at 13, and we're going to keep on going until 19. That'll wrap up that chunk. Okay? Keep that bow hold, index finger out. We're going to pluck, keeping a good bow hold. 13. 1, 2, ready, go. Half a note in. Half a note in, half a note in, rest, rest. Rest, rest. starts with a piano half note, and then we have 2 up bows in a row. We have half note, push, push. Okay? Not too aggressive on these push pushes. They don't have staccato dots or anything like that, but we do have 2 up bows in a row. Okay? Make sure that you save enough room on your first up bow that you have enough bow left for your second up bow. All right? Let's try that. We're going from measure 19 until measure 23. This is kind of a short chunk here. Here we go. 19. 1, 2, piano, go. Half a note in, push, push. Half a note in, half a note, half a note in. 1 in, 2 in, 3 in, 4 in. And notice how those last 2 measures I did get louder. I used more bow. I made sure that I pushed all the way to the frog to make sure that happened. All right, 23. Our next chunk is from 23 to 35. A little bit longer here. Mostly just that flowing quarter notes. You are supporting the voices that are occurring around you in the orchestra. So make sure you're staying nice and steady and listening across and around the orchestra so that our heartbeat, our beat of the piece of music stays consistent. Okay? Here's 23. It's forte. Nice big sound. Opening and closing that bow elbow to really push and pull on the string. All right, 23 to 35. 1, 2, ready, go. Should take you to 35. Our last chunk is going to be from that 35 to the end. Very, very similar to what we had at the beginning with the 1 half a note and 4, or 1, 2 and 3 and 4. However you're going to count that, choose a way, stick with it. All right, here we go. 35 to the end. 1, 2, ready, go. Half note. Half note. Half a note in. Half a note and off. And those whole last 2 measures, we do have those accents. You're going to lean on that index finger on the bow hold to really play into the string. Okay? All right, again, not too hard for the viola part. Just make sure that you are counting very carefully, observing those crescendos, diminuendos, those volume changes, the up bowings, all that sort of stuff, and you will be the great inner voice of the orchestra that we know you can be. All right, see you in class.